Welcome to Developers Corner. I'm Rob Langton from developmentready.com.au, and we are joined here this morning with Brook Monahan from Mosaic Property Group, founder and managing director. Brook, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate the opportunity.
Tell us about Mosaic Property Group and also how you got your start in the property industry.
Yeah, Rob, look, I've probably been involved in the construction development industry in some capacity, shape or form for about 15 years, primarily based here at South East Queensland. I founded Mosaic Property Group back in early 2012, and it was a spin-off of an existing development company that I ran at the time, and established it at the time in conjunction with a close mate and then now co-founder and director of developments of Mosaic, David Hanley. So it's a business, our head office here in Brisbane. We have representation across the whole of South East Queensland, about 85 odd staff, and I think that the thing that probably best defines our business model is we're a fully integrated design, development and construction business that sort of covers all aspects of research, design, sales, marketing, acquisitions, development, construction, community engagement, and then also the management of our assets upon completion.
And what's your view on the market so far? Always almost quarter four of the year now. How's it been for you and the team?
Yeah, look, it's been good for us, but I think in our industry, there's decisions that you've made, previously. It's a business whereby what you invest in and the decisions you make come to bear at some time in the future. So, the experiences of 2017 are a result of the work and effort that we sort of fairly meticulously implemented 3 or 4 years ago. I think the market in Brisbane in late 2017, I don't think there's too many surprises. It's sort of pretty much exactly how we'd anticipated for some period of time, and we say that with respect to the market and other participants. But there's no doubt that we're at the back end of some market excess. That's as a result of freely available credit for a period where everybody competed for the same, typically high density apartment sites. When credit's available and everyone bids up the price of land, what you get is a dislocation between where product gets applied and what the genuine underlying market demand is. And we're starting to see that play out in full force in Brisbane, and we're probably still 12 to 18 months away from those excesses being absorbed.
And what sort of opportunities have you explored this year?
As far as opportunities, is to continue to invest in strong connection between our brand and the marketplace, and the trust that's developed as a result of that. I think there's been some trust that has eroded. We've had 30 odd builders go broke in Brisbane in the last 12 to 18 months, and we're starting to see that flow on to developers, and that's a result of speculative investment where people don't have a strong understanding of the skill set required to deliver the right product connected to underlying market demand over a long period of time. So for us, continuing to respect the fact that it's difficult to stay successful as a business in the development construction industry for multiple cycles. So investing into people, investing into strategy, trying to anticipate without getting too far ahead of ourselves where we see the opportunities, aligned to genuine underlying demand, and where we see some opportunities where supply is a little bit more constrained. So continuing to invest in our brand and people has been really important for the strategy development, and we hope that bodes well for us in the next few years.
Now, you've obviously got a significant portfolio of properties. What sort of projects are you working on at the moment? Yeah,
Rob, so we've got and once again, and this has been as a result of lots of effort over a long period of time, but where we currently sit, we've got a fairly diversified portfolio of different residential product types across South East Queensland, so predominantly Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast and the Moreton Shire, and that includes everything from luxury townhouse product to freehold terraces to infill house and land, and obviously our luxury boutique apartment products. So, either under construction, about to be released, or in our pipeline, we've got probably another 18 or 19 projects over the next 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
And that's something that we continue to roll out, market dependent, and certainly, dependent on the genuine demand that we're getting direct to our brand and through some of our trusted partners.
And what are you finding is the most effective process for securing new projects? Is it off market? Is it through agencies, existing channels? Shed some light on that.
Yeah, it's a good question, Rob. I think the biggest thing there that some people maybe fail to understand, I think it's like every single part of the multidisciplinary approach to development and construction, is that it's never one thing. There's no silver bullet. So we're lucky enough to have a really capable research and acquisition team. So it's a multifaceted approach to us, and you can't leave any stone unturned. So there's a lot of direct market initiatives that we've implemented over a long period of time, but the reality is our best success has come from off-market transactions where someone's introduced us an opportunity, and that's generally some sort of trusted person who understands and knows us or knows our brand, whether that's an agent or otherwise. And we've certainly had the best opportunities there where we've been able to engage with particular landowners and explain what we've done over a long period of time, and the consistency of always delivering on what you say you're going to do has meant that we've probably had access to more opportunities off market than maybe some other small developers might have in the last few years. But there's also a lot of work to be done once an opportunity is introduced. So it's never lost on us, and we try and respect both the referral source for that opportunity, but also the relationship with a particular landholder.
Now, when you are obviously going through the process of approvals for new projects, through council, that sort of thing, are you finding council's very sort of pro-development, pro-economic progress?
Yeah, look, same thing again. It's like the question depends on what are your intentions, what is the product that you're trying to provide for the market, are you genuinely engaging with the community, does that particular application relate in any way, shape or form of what code allows. So I think it's, if you understand what the planning code allows, if you understand how that links to then genuine underlying market demand at a local level, whether you're selling to investors or owner-occupiers, it's irrelevant, because at the end of the day, it's the secondary market that's most important. So if you're designing product that suits the market and what the community wants, and there's respect to that planning process, and you actually are diligent in how you then present that opportunity and the basis for it to council, and you engage with them in a respectful manner, then I think there's always a way forward. I think it's when developers get disconnected with the pressures that are on council and I guess the fears that the local community have as a result of some poor planning outcomes in the past. So I think, once again, mate, it depends on how you approach it.
Now, you obviously deal with a lot of external stakeholders, architects, design teams, town planners, that sort of thing. What do you look for in a relationship with your stakeholders?
Yeah, good question, mate. It's got to be strong alignment of values. So at the end of the day, for us, everything relates back to an investment in our brand. So decisions we make, if it doesn't impact our brand positively, we don't do it, regardless of whether we can make a quid out of it or not. So for us, when our stakeholders understand that everything we do reflects either positively or negatively on our brand, and the detail and attention to detail and constantly pushing the boundaries, I guess, with respect to design evolution, and also the economics need to work. So if there's strong alignment with the expectations that we set, and people want to work in a collaborative approach with us, because we also have a strong design function in-house. So although we engage externally with architects and obviously other consultants, and they're really critical to our business, we also have a strong capability in-house, and we find that the best outcomes occur when there is a collaborative approach. So having consultants are also open to a collaborative approach rather than a typical client-consultant relationship, then we find we get the best outcomes in that scenario.
You talk a lot about building your brand. What's the process involved with that? How are you going about getting Mosaic Property Group out there in the marketplace?
Mate, it's a function of all the little things that you do consistently over a long period of time. Once again, there's no one specific strategy that builds trust in a brand. If you continually set expectations that you deliver on, then people then trust that what you say is what you're going to do. And if you do that consistently over a long enough period of time, then you build loyalty and trust in your brand, and people want to do more business with you. And that's just not buyers wanting to buy our product. That's how we respect consultants. It's how we respect our key trades, suppliers, subcontractors, the guys that work out in the heat 6 days a week. So respecting those relationships, making sure there's mutually aligned interests, and we're constantly checking in with that and doing what we say we're going to do on a consistent basis. And that in turn respects the relationship. People then want to engage and do more business with us because there's mutual benefit in doing so. In
terms of market research, obviously it's one of the foremost components, when you're assessing the viability of projects, all that sort of thing. How does your team approach it?
Yeah, so once again, multifaceted approach. So we've got a really capable research and strategy team which works closely with me, and there's decades of intel that's been built up there with some of the capability we have in-house. So it's not a function of just what we do now. It's been able to draw on that experience over a long period of time through certain cycles and understanding what has worked but also what hasn't worked, not just for us but for other participants in the marketplace. So I think we also engage heavily with the hundreds of people that have previously bought into a Mosaic project, and because we manage all of our assets long into the future post-completion, we've got a strong connection with understanding what's worked or what we've improved over time. So design and product evolution has been critical to that, but then also trying to anticipate where we see opportunities in different demographic sectors, in different geographical locations, without getting too far ahead of ourselves. So you're always buying forward into where you see those opportunities, but also aligned to I guess your historical analytics based on the research and data that you have from our own experiences in dealing with our previous buyers who have come through Mosaic.
You mentioned you were exploring some opportunities in the Gold Coast. We were there yesterday and could see firsthand what was occurring there. What's your take on the market there? Yeah,
Gold Coast is a little bit of a tricky one. We've got a significant pipeline on the Sunshine Coast. I've lived up the Sunshine Coast with my family for a long period of time, even though our head office is based here in Brisbane, and we think the Sunshine Coast, without getting away from your question, Rob, I'll get to it in a second, I think the Sunshine Coast is probably the best place it's been in 3 or 4 decades with respect to game-changing infrastructure projects and job creation, and just the fact there's been no supply really since pre-GFC. So Sunshine Coast is probably, you can view the market generally as a whole, although you still need to get the product, the price point and the offering right. The Gold Coast, has some areas of oversupply that I think will be a concern. Some of the stuff will come post Com Games. I think some people have geared up into that with an expectation that there's all this interest in the Gold Coast, but I think that interest will come and go. So once again, if your product's not aligned or your offering's not aligned to genuine long-term underlying demand in the Gold Coast market, then some people may be caught out. But there's also opportunity in that. So the Gold Coast is, it's a massive regional city with lots of opportunity, and we're always taking a view over 10 to 15, 20 years, but you've got to get the product offering right.
And in terms of the Sunshine Coast, what sort of product are you delivering there?
Yeah, most of the product we've successfully launched, and we're in construction on 2 luxury apartment projects at Kings Beach at Caloundra, and we're about to launch what we think will be the best north-facing beachfront opportunity that Sunshine Coast has seen in a very long time at Coolum, that we launch in a couple of weeks' time. And we've got a north-facing riverfront site at Cotton Tree at Maroochydore in the heart of the Sunshine Coast CBD that once again we think we'll deliver a project there that will exceed anything that's been delivered in that particular location previously. So certainly luxury apartment projects with strong connection to infrastructure and water, whether that be river or beach, has been a big part of our play up there over this last 2 years and certainly moving forward for the next 3 years.
And what's your take on the high rise? We're obviously here in Brisbane today in the CBD. What's your take on, firstly, high rise in this area, and secondly, this issue of so-called oversupply? Yeah, and I think it's a genuine issue. It's not that, I know, with respect to the comment around so-called, there's no doubt there's some oversupply. And the oversupply, a little bit different to Sydney and Melbourne, it's very constrained in inner north and inner south. So if you draw a 2K ring around Brisbane CBD, the oversupply issues in the CBD aren't as great as the inner north and the inner south. So there's been some really good projects delivered in these particular locations in the last couple of years, and some projects still to be delivered, but there's also some oversupply to some really poor designed, small, poorly finished investment grade product that I think will have issue establishing value come settlement time, and I certainly think it'll create issue for the buyers long term because it's just not linked to what people really want to live in. So I think that there's some issues to play out. Some of the supply, I think the supply could have been a lot worse. Some of the intervention from APRA and some of the out of cycle rate rises from the banks, and the genuine constraints you see at this time in the cycle have constrained supply to a degree that I think we'll get through it. So do I think there's issues? Yes, I do. Do I think the worst is still to come? Yes, I do. Do I think Brisbane can contain it and reasonably will absorb it in the next 2 years? I think most likely yes. You obviously speak to a lot of other developers and other industry professionals, and you've got a positive sentiment on the market in the Sunshine Coast and Brisbane. Is that shared with your colleagues? Oh, for sure. Look, I think the guys that have been in this market for a long term, that take a long-term view on the market, and that includes Brisbane. I generally see southeast Queensland, and Brisbane's at the heart of that, as the most exciting opportunity on the eastern seaboard of Australia for the next 8 years. We think southeast Queensland will generally lead the next cycle, whenever that is. It might be 2 or 3 years away yet, but the growing disconnect between the value of what you can get up here in Queensland, and particularly Brisbane, versus the southern states is the greatest we've ever seen. But the real issue has been interstate migration, and that's a function of not being able to create enough jobs, or at least confidence and certainty around future job creation. So I think some game-changing infrastructure projects. We'll have a state election at some time in the next 9 years, and if we get some confidence around the direction that whoever gets elected is going to take, and the job creation piece continues to become centre of focus for whoever gets in power. That coupled with some game-changing infrastructure projects, I think we'll start to see more people wanting to come north from the southern states, because if they have confidence around future job security, then the enticement of what you get when you sell up down south and come up here is just so great. So mate, we're really confident about Southeast Queensland market. If you take a 7 to 8 year view, there's just a few issues to wade our way through over the next couple of years. And do you think there has been enough infrastructure investment by the state government so far? I mean, there's always more that could be done, but are you satisfied with the current level? I think the direction we're heading in now is really positive. I think there's no doubt that the current state government was probably in a bit of a holding pattern for its first couple of years. Probably didn't expect to be elected and to hold power. So it's taken some time for the Palisade government to find its feet, and they're probably doing so now. It's why she's still a chance, I guess, to get re-elected. So for us, we think that there's been a bit of a holding pattern in Brisbane that has hurt us to a certain extent, but I feel regardless of who gets elected, I think where we're heading in the next 3 to 4 years is really positive. Just on settlement risk, without giving away percentage, has that been a big issue for you and the team? No, mate, we're lucky enough to have 100% track record in settlement. We've delivered
8 projects that we've settled down successfully since December last year. So that's in 9 months. So we've got another 2 that we're settling down between now and Christmas, and another 2 early in 2018. And for us, it's not a function of just a buyer turning up. You go and build a project and you hope they turn up with a cheque at the back end. And I think people have approached it that way and don't have a strong connection or understanding who their buyers are, and those buyers not seeing genuine value in the underlying product that they're actually purchasing into. That's where the issues arise, but we have strong connection with our buyers. We understand all of them, whether they're buying for investment purposes or to live in permanently as an owner-occupier. Understanding those people and who they are and the reasons they've bought into your product, and maintaining a strong relationship throughout the entire project life cycle, particularly during construction leading up to settlement. If you do that well enough and you've offered the right product, I think at the right price, and the market accepts that, and that gets reflected in valuations and credit and all the rest of it, then for us, we haven't had any settlement issues up to date, thankfully, but we need to continue to work hard at that. I certainly don't think it's an easy market with respect to settlements, and it won't get any better for some time. The next 12 months will be probably tougher than it has been. Banks are unlikely to continue to lend into particularly high-rise product here for a little while, and that flows on to sentiment, which flows on to sales, which flows on to preconditions to get funding off the ground. So, mate, for us, it's not just about settlement risk; it's about also forward planning for future projects that need to be launched. But so far, so good for us, mate. We'll just continue to chip away.
And you mentioned earlier the importance of establishing those key buyer relationships. Just at the start and the outset, how do you go about actually marketing and finding out who those buyers are prior to establishing a relationship with them? Is it a mix of online, digital, your database?
Yeah, once again, mate, it's a multifaceted approach. We spend a lot of time trying to engage with people that are connected to our brand through our website, through social media, and that's not just about trying to jam stuff down people's throat. It's got to add value to people, mate, without any sort of call to action to try and get these guys to transact with you. We're not selling shoes, we're not selling widgets. We're selling items that are, for many people, the most significant purchase they'll make in their lifetime, and we try to fully respect that. So most of our engagement through our growing database that follows our brand is about trying to add value to those people through education and awareness, and then over time that builds confidence and trust, because we're not always trying to sell to them. So we've invested heavily in that over this last 3 years, and we'll continue to, and it's why our growing percentage of direct buyers and owner-occupiers, even in this market, has been really strong for us, which has been pleasing. But we also have people that trust in our brand that refer us their clients. I hear people talking about what channel partners or marketing groups do you use, and I think if that's the core strategy for which you're going to sell your property, then you're going to have issues when you come to these pinch points in the cycle. So, mate, we try to build relationships with people, and we invest heavily over a long period of time. And if there's strong alignment of values between the people who refer us to their clients, and they're really nervous about referring us to their clients, which means they understand what's really critical from a value perspective for them to get. And for us, that is consistently do what we're saying we're going to do, which is 100% track record in project delivery, managing our assets long after a client settles, so that we've got their vested interests at heart. The fact that our staff, our family, our friends, people close to us all invest in all of our projects since we've started. Then people have that connection to understanding that we really care about our product, and we've aligned it to, once again, that underlying market demand. So for us, we'll continue to grow our direct buyer profile, but we'll also continue to invest heavily in the relationships that have been really loyal to us in the past.
And just finally, the next 6 to 12 months, what's your take on, firstly, the Brisbane market, and then secondly, Sunshine Coast / Gold Coast?
Yeah, so I think next 6 to 12 months you'll probably fall on the bottom of the Brizzy market. So this is particularly around settlement risk and valuation issues, and we'll get to see how the bank responds to that. I think they've been pretty patient today. I think it's been reasonably well contained with certain developers and certain projects. So we probably expect that to continue, barring some other external force having an impact. So the next 6 to 12 months will probably fall on the bottom of the Brizzy market, particularly with respect to rental vacancies, and how that flow-on effect also from a valuation and rental perspective impacts secondary sort of older product, sort of 15, 20-year-old product, a little bit further out in sort of inferior locations. I think that product, if you're trying to sell out of it, will get really hurt as a result of what's happening with this large supply of new products still to settle down. But supply falls off pretty sharply in Brisbane in 2019 and 2020. There's not much past this year and next. So we think ultimately the market will absorb it, and for us the opportunity moving forward is counter-cyclical or out of cycle purchasing, and which we're pretty aggressive at doing at the moment. So setting ourselves up for the next cycle in Brisbane, where we see lots of opportunity, and we think the Sunshine Coast market in particular will enter a really strong period for this next 2 to 3 years. But probably too late to enter that market. So if you haven't been on the ground there 2 years ago, then you probably missed the boat. And Gold Coast is a market we'll continue to invest in, but we'll also be a little bit cautious about.
Well, Brook, thanks so much for joining us here on Developers Corner.
Really appreciate your time, Rob. Thanks, mate.
Thank you very much for watching.